The great hall on Concordia buzzed with angry voices. 47 different alien species sat in their floating seats, all looking down at one human woman. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood alone in the center of the room, her dark suit simple compared to the bright colors and strange shapes around her. The Vextai Chancellor spoke first. Its crystal body made musical sounds that the translator turned into words. Humans have broken too many rules. You expand too fast. You give technology to species we said no to. You do not listen. Sarah looked up at the crystal being. Around the room, other aliens nodded their agreement. The gas form ethereals floated in their containment bubbles, making soft, whooshing sounds. The tree-like dendrons creaked their wooden limbs in what she knew was their way of saying yes. "We came here as friends," Sarah said. Her voice was calm but firm. "We wanted to work together, but all you do is tell us to stop. Stop exploring. Stop helping others. Stop being human." The Chancellor's crystal form rang like a bell. "Your species is too young, too wild. You do not understand the galaxy. You make mistakes that hurt everyone." An ethereal spoke next, its voice like wind through leaves. "You gave faster ships to the Kepri people. We told you they were not ready. Now they fight wars in 3-star systems." "The Kepri were slaves," Sarah shot back. "Your council knew this. You did nothing for 200 years. We gave them ships so they could be free." The room erupted in noise. Aliens spoke over each other in dozens of languages. Sarah waited for the sounds to die down. The Chancellor raised one crystal arm for silence. "This is exactly why humans cannot stay in the Council. You think you know better than species who have lived for thousands of years. You are children playing with fire." Sarah smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "Maybe we are children, but sometimes children see things that adults refuse to look at." The Chancellor's form glowed brighter. "Enough. The Council has decided. Humanity will submit to our rules or leave our space. You will limit your population. You will stop building new colonies. You will return all technology given to restricted species. You will put Council observers on all human worlds." The other aliens watched Sarah carefully. They expected her to beg. They expected her to ask for more time. They expected humans to bend the knee like so many other species had done. Instead, Sarah reached into her jacket and pulled out a small device. "I want every human in Council space to hear this," she said, activating the communicator. The Chancellor's crystal form dimmed. "What are you doing?" Sarah's voice carried across space to every human colony, every Earth ship, every settlement on the edge of known space. "Citizens of Earth and all human worlds, this is Ambassador Chen speaking from Concordia. The Galactic Council has given us a choice: obey their rules and become their subjects, or leave their space." The aliens in the Great Hall started making worried sounds. This was not how these meetings usually went. "The Council wants to control how many children we can have. They want to tell us which worlds we can live on. They want to put their people in charge of our lives. They call this peace. I call it slavery." The Chancellor stood up, its crystal body singing with rage. "You cannot broadcast here without permission." Sarah ignored the crystal being. "So we are leaving, all of us. Pack only what you need, but take everything that makes you human. Take your dreams, take your hope, take your refusal to bow down to anyone." Around the Great Hall, aliens were shouting and making their species versions of angry sounds, but Sarah kept talking. "To the Kepri, the Marathi, the Xeon Collective, and all the other species the Council calls not ready, you have friends among the stars. Find us beyond their borders. We will not forget you." The Chancellor moved toward Sarah, but she was already walking to the exit. "You make a terrible mistake, human. Outside Council space is nothing but empty stars and hostile worlds. Your species will die in the cold dark." Sarah stopped at the door and looked back at the room full of angry aliens. "Maybe we will, but we will die free. That is more than you can say." She walked out of the Great Hall. Behind her, the aliens argued about what to do next. But it was too late to stop what had started. Across human space, the evacuation began immediately. On Earth, great ships lifted off from every spaceport. On the colony worlds, families packed their belongings into cargo containers. Human merchant ships changed course, heading for the edge of Council space. The Council tried to stop some of the ships. They said humans were taking stolen technology and breaking trade agreements. But Admiral Jackson of the Earth Defense Force was ready for this. "Any ship that tries to stop our people will be considered hostile," he broadcast to the Council fleets. "We are leaving peacefully. Let us go." The Council ships watched, but did not attack. They were not ready for a war with humanity, especially when humans were already leaving. It took 3 months to evacuate every human from Council space. Some aliens helped in secret, giving food and fuel to human ships. Others watched sadly as their human friends left forever. The last human transport crossed the border on December 7, 2387. Captain Maria Santos transmitted a final message to Concordia. "We go now to find our own way among the stars. Perhaps someday, when your council learns to treat all species as equals, we can meet again as friends." The Chancellor watched the human ships disappear into dark space. "Good riddance," it said to the other council members. "Now we can have peace again." But some of the younger aliens wondered if they had just made a terrible mistake. The galaxy suddenly felt smaller and quieter without the humans' constant questions and wild ideas. Time would tell who was right. 57 years passed like a long, quiet breath across the galaxy. The Galactic Council grew larger and more powerful. New species joined them, eager to share in their technology and protection. Trade routes expanded. Wars became rare. The Council called it their Golden Age. Nobody talked about humans anymore. They had become a story that older aliens told younger ones, a warning about what happened to species that refused to follow the rules. Most aliens believed humans had died out in the dark space beyond the Council's borders. Captain Elena Vasquez knew better. She stood on the bridge of the exploration ship Prometheus, watching the twisted light of the Kepler expanse dance across her screens. This region of space looked like a nightmare. Stars here burned too hot or too cold. Gravity flowed in impossible directions. Space itself seemed angry. "Another solar flare from the red giant," reported Lieutenant Chen. "That makes 47 this week." Elena nodded. The Council had declared this region unsuitable for any form of life decades ago. They were wrong, like they were wrong about many things. "Signal from the mining station," called Communications Officer Blake. "They have reached their weekly quota again." Elena smiled. The unstable stars that made Council scientists afraid were perfect for human fusion reactors. The weird gravity that confused Council navigation computers had become highways for human faster-than-light travel. What the Council called impossible, humans called Tuesday. "Take us to New Geneva Station," Elena ordered. "The Admiral wants to see the weekly reports." As the Prometheus jumped through folded space, Elena thought about how much had changed. When humans first arrived in this region, they had nothing but hope and determination. The first winter on New Geneva killed 3,000 people. The second killed 2,000. By the third winter, humans had learned to harvest energy from the unstable stars themselves. Now, New Geneva was home to 12 million people. The planet's cities floated on platforms that rode the planet's shifting gravity fields. Children grew up playing in zero gravity one day and double gravity the next. They thought this was normal. The Prometheus arrived at New Geneva's orbital station to find it busier than usual. Ships from dozens of species moved between the docking bays. But these were not Council ships. These were the vessels of the Forgotten. Elena walked through the station's main corridor and saw the Cathara delegate talking to a human engineer. The insect-like alien's 4 arms moved rapidly as it explained something about biometal construction. The human nodded and took notes on a data pad. Further down the corridor, a member of the Iron Collective interfaced directly with a human computer terminal. The cybernetic being's metal face showed no emotion, but its electronic voice carried satisfaction. This design is acceptable. We will begin production immediately. Elena reached Admiral Johnson's office to find him in a meeting with 3 species that officially did not exist, according to the Council. Dr. Harrison sat across from an architect, one of the ancient beings who built impossible structures across space. Next to them, a representative of the flux flickered between solid and energy states. "Elena, good timing," Admiral Johnson said. "We were just discussing the latest reports from the Outer Rim." The architect spoke with a voice like distant music. "More species seek refuge beyond Council space. The Council grows afraid of new ideas. They exile those who think differently." Dr. Harrison pulled up a holographic display. "We have contacted 17 new species this month alone. All of them were either rejected by the Council or told to limit their development." Elena looked at the display showing the growing network of non-Council species. "How many are we now?" 43 species working together," the Admiral replied. "The Council likes to call us the Forgotten Ones, or the Rejects, but I prefer another name." The flux being's energy form pulsed with amusement. "And what name is that, Admiral?" Johnson smiled. "The Tempest Coalition, because storms change everything they touch." Elena studied the star map showing their territory. It was huge now, bigger than Council space in some directions. But it was not about size. It was about something the Council had forgotten how to do. "The architects have a proposal for us," Dr. Harrison said. He looked excited, which was never a good sign. Harrison got excited about dangerous things. The ancient alien moved forward. Its crystal-like form was beautiful and terrible at the same time. "We know something about the Council that they believe is still secret. Something hidden for 10,000 years. "What kind of secret?" Elena asked. "The kind that explains why they fear change so much," the architect replied. "The kind that might interest humans who refuse to accept limits." Admiral Johnson leaned forward. "Go on." The architect touched the star map, and new coordinates appeared. They pointed to empty space far beyond both Council territory and the Tempest Coalition. "There is a place called the Nexus, hidden in folded space where only the eldest Council members know how to find it." "What's there?" Elena asked. "Prisoners," the architect said simply. "Entire species locked away because they were too dangerous to exist." Dr. Harrison frowned. "Dangerous how? Were they violent?" "No," the flux being answered, its energy form dimming with sadness. "They were dangerous because they refused to stop growing, because they asked questions the Council could not answer, because they developed technologies that made Council control impossible." The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. "How many species?" "Hundreds," the architect replied. "Including my own people's greatest scientists, including species that achieved things the Council still claims are impossible." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. "They are still alive?" "Time moves differently in the Nexus. Some have been there for millennia but have aged only years. Others exist outside time completely." The Admiral stood up and walked to the window. Outside, ships from the Tempest Coalition moved through space using technologies that should not work according to Council science. "Why are you telling us this?" The architect's crystalline form rang like a bell. "Because humans do something the galaxy has not seen in 10,000 years. You make impossible things happen. You turn outcasts into family. You look at the word impossible and say, 'We will see about that.'" Dr. Harrison was already pulling up navigation charts. "If we could free these species, we would not just be saving prisoners," Elena realized. We would be freeing all the knowledge the Council has locked away. The flux being pulsed with something like excitement. Technologies that could transform the galaxy. Medical advances that could extend life indefinitely. Sciences that make Council achievements look like children's toys. Admiral Johnson turned back to face them. It would also mean war. The Council will not let us take their deepest secret. They already consider us enemies, the architect said. They simply pretend we do not matter because we stay in dark space. But if they knew how strong we have become. Elena thought about the children playing in shifting gravity on New Geneva, about the Kythera colonies growing living ships in biogardens, about the Iron Collective's factories producing wonders that Council science said were impossible, about 43 species working together as equals rather than as rulers and subjects. "When do we leave?" she asked. Admiral Johnson smiled. "Harrison, start planning the mission. Elena, you will command the expedition. And everyone—" He looked around the room at humans and aliens working together. "Keep this secret for now. We need to be ready before the Council learns what we intend to do." As the meeting ended, Elena wondered what they would find at the Nexus. What kind of beings had the Council feared enough to lock away forever? What knowledge had been hidden from the galaxy for 10,000 years? Soon, she would find out. And the galaxy would never be the same. The architect ship Eternal Theorem looked like a piece of art floating in space, its crystalline hull bent light in ways that hurt to look at directly. Commander David Torres watched it through his ship's main screen as they followed it toward coordinates that should not exist. "Still no readings on our sensors," reported Lieutenant Park from the navigation station. "It is like we are flying toward empty space." David nodded. That was the point. The Nexus was hidden in folded space, invisible to normal sensors. Only the architects knew how to find it, and they had kept this secret for 10,000 years. "Dr. Okafor, are your teams ready?" David asked over the comm system. "Ready as we can be," came her reply from the science deck. "Though I admit we have no idea what we will find in there." David understood her concern. 3 weeks of travel to reach coordinates in the middle of nothing. Following aliens who claimed the Galactic Council had been lying to the galaxy for millennia. It sounded like madness. But then, everything humans had done for the past 50 years sounded like madness to the Council. "Commander," Lieutenant Park called out, "the architect ship is slowing down. They are signaling us to do the same." On the main screen, the Eternal Theorem began to change. Its crystal hull started vibrating in patterns that made reality shimmer around it. Space itself seemed to bend and twist. "What are they doing?" David asked. "Opening a door," came the voice of Architect Prime through the communication system. "Prepare your ship for translation into folded space. Warning, human minds may find the transition disturbing." David activated the ship-wide comm. "All hands, prepare for dimensional shift. Secure all equipment and personnel." The universe around them began to fold like paper. Colors that had no names flashed across the screens. David felt his stomach try to turn inside out as their ship followed the Eternal Theorem through a crack in reality itself. Then everything went normal again. Too normal. "Status report," David called out. "All systems functioning," Park reported. "But, sir, look at the main screen." David looked and felt his breath catch. Ahead of them floated a structure so massive it dwarfed small planets. It looked like a city built by gods, with towers that stretched into the distance and rings that spun slowly around a central core. "The Nexus," Architect Prime said through the comm. "Built by the Council's predecessor civilization as a place of learning. Now used as a prison." Dr. Okafor's voice came over the comm, filled with wonder and horror. "The energy readings are incredible. David, this thing is not just a station. It is a machine. A machine designed to keep things locked inside." As they flew closer, David could see that the beautiful structure was actually a prison. Energy barriers glowed between the towers. Massive doors were sealed with locks that looked like they were built into the fabric of space itself. "How many are in there?" David asked. "We estimate 412 different species," Architect Prime replied. "Some imprisoned for thousands of years, others for developing technologies the Council feared." "What kind of technologies?" "The kind that would end the Council's control over the galaxy." David's ship docked with one of the Nexus's smaller platforms. As his team prepared to board the ancient structure, Dr. Okafor joined him in the airlock. "David, I want to know what we are walking into," she said. "If the Council built this place to hold dangerous species—" "The architect said they were not dangerous because they were violent," David reminded her. "They were dangerous because they would not stay controlled." The airlock opened onto a corridor that stretched further than their lights could reach. The air was breathable, kept fresh by systems that had worked perfectly for millennia. But something felt wrong about the place. It was too quiet, too empty. They followed Architect Prime deeper into the structure. Emergency lights activated as they walked, showing walls covered in symbols from dozens of different civilizations. "Each symbol represents a species imprisoned here," Architect Prime explained. "My people added our own symbols when the Council locked away our greatest thinkers." They reached a massive door sealed with energy locks that pulsed with dangerous light. Architect Prime touched the wall beside it, and symbols appeared in the air. "The synthesis," the ancient alien said. "Beings who transcended physical form and became pure thought. The Council locked them away because their existence proved that consciousness could exist without bodies." "They are still alive?" Dr. Okafor asked. "Time works differently for beings of pure thought. They have been aware of everything happening in the galaxy for the past 3,000 years. Unable to act, unable to help, only able to watch." David felt sick. "Can we free them?" "Yes, but doing so will trigger the Nexus's security systems. The Council designed this place with a final defense. If the prisoners escape, the entire structure will destroy itself, and everything around it." They moved to another sealed door. This one showed symbols that looked like mathematical equations written in light. "The Shapers," Architect Prime said. "They learned to manipulate space and time itself. The Council feared them because they could create new realities." "Create realities?" David asked. "Imagine being able to reshape a solar system by thinking about it differently. Imagine being able to make faster-than-light travel as easy as taking a step forward. The Shapers could do these things." Dr. Okafor was scanning the energy locks with her instruments. "These seals are incredibly complex. It would take weeks to figure out how to open them safely." "We do not have weeks," Architect Prime said. "The Council will eventually notice our ships are missing. When they do, they will guess where we went." They continued through the Nexus, finding more and more sealed chambers. Each one held species that had been locked away for asking the wrong questions or developing the wrong technologies. David began to understand the true scope of the Council's deception. "This is not just a prison," he realized. "This is a library. Every advancement the galaxy could have made, locked away to keep the Council in power." "Now you begin to understand," Architect Prime said. "The Council speaks of peace and stability, but what they really mean is stagnation. They have kept the galaxy from growing for 10,000 years. They reached the deepest part of the Nexus, where the oldest chambers were located. Here, the energy seals were so powerful that they hurt to look at directly." "Who is in there?" Dr. Okafor asked. "The predecessors," Architect Prime said quietly. "The civilization that built the Council as a temporary government while they explored the far reaches of space. When they returned, they found the Council had made itself permanent. So the Council locked them away and claimed they had never existed." David stared at the sealed chamber. "The species that created the Galactic Council are prisoners of their own creation." "Yes, and they have been planning their escape for 9,000 years. Suddenly, alarms began sounding throughout the Nexus. Red lights flashed in the corridors as automated systems activated. "What is happening?" David shouted over the noise. Architect Prime's crystalline form dimmed with concern. "The Council fleet? They have found us." Dr. Okafor checked her instruments. "David, I am reading massive energy buildup in the Nexus core. This whole place is preparing to self-destruct. How long do we have?" "Maybe 6 hours before the failsafe activates." David activated his comm system to contact his ship. "Admiral Johnson, we need immediate backup. The Council found us, and this place is going to explode." Admiral Johnson's voice crackled through the comm. "Already on our way, David. The entire Tempest Coalition is mobilizing. But you need to free as many prisoners as you can before we arrive." David looked at the hundreds of sealed chambers stretching into the distance. 6 hours to free species that had been locked away for thousands of years. It seemed impossible. But humans specialized in making impossible things happen. "Architect Prime," David said, "teach us how to break these locks, all of them. Even if we succeed, the Council fleet will fight us." "Then we will fight back," David replied. "It is time the galaxy learned the truth." Captain Marcus Webb crouched behind an asteroid, watching the Council fleet through his reconnaissance ship's sensors. 237 vessels stretched across space in perfect formation. Battleships the size of cities. Carriers filled with fighter craft. Destroyer squadrons moving like schools of deadly fish. "This is not a patrol fleet," Webb reported to Admiral Johnson. "This is an invasion force. They brought everything they have." Admiral Johnson's voice came through the comm with static from the Nexus's interference. "How long until they reach the prison?" 4 hours, maybe less." Webb adjusted his ship's position to get a better view. "Admiral, they are broadcasting something on all Council frequencies. You need to hear this." The signal was strong and clear. Chancellor Zeftar's crystalline voice carried across space, speaking to every Council world simultaneously. "Citizens of the galaxy," the Chancellor announced. "A great threat has emerged from the dark space beyond our borders. The species we exiled 57 years ago has returned. Corrupted by contact with dangerous entities, they seek to destroy the peace we have built together." Webb felt his anger rising as he listened to the lies. "These criminals have attacked a sacred council facility and freed prisoners too dangerous for civilized space. They threaten everything we have accomplished. Therefore, the Council authorizes the use of our most powerful weapons. This threat must be eliminated completely." The transmission ended, but Webb could see the Council fleet's weapons charging. Energy readings spiked across his sensors. They were not just planning to stop the prison break, they were planning to destroy everything within 100 light-years. "Admiral," Webb called urgently, "they have Nexus-class extinction weapons online. They mean to sterilize this entire region of space." Back inside the Nexus, Admiral Johnson received Webb's report while helping Dr. Okafor free another group of prisoners. The latest chamber had held the Flux Collective, beings of pure energy who could exist in multiple dimensions at once. "How many species have we freed so far?" Johnson asked. 73, Dr. Okafor replied, sweat running down her face from the effort. "But there are still over 300 chambers sealed." The freed Flux beings flowed around them like living light. Their leader, a swirling mass of golden energy, spoke without words directly into their minds. "We thank you for our freedom, humans. But the Nexus's destruction sequence has accelerated. The Council fleet's approach triggered additional security protocols." "How much time do we have?" Johnson asked. 2 hours. Perhaps less. Admiral Johnson activated his fleet-wide communication system. "All Tempest Coalition vessels, this is Admiral Johnson. We are facing the largest Council fleet in history. They have weapons capable of destroying star systems. We need every ship, every ally, every advantage we can get." Responses came from across space as the Coalition fleet moved toward the Nexus. Captain Santos of the Kythera bioships reported ready. Commander Vega of the Iron Collective's cyber vessels confirmed combat readiness. Ship after ship checked in, representing dozens of species working together. But Johnson knew it would not be enough. The Council had been preparing for war for millennia. The Coalition had been building for only 50 years. Inside the deepest part of the Nexus, Commander Torres worked desperately to free the predecessors. Their chamber was protected by locks that seemed to exist in several dimensions at once. Every time his team thought they understood the mechanism, it changed into something else. "David," Dr. Okafor called over the comm. "The synthesis are fully awakened now. They want to speak with you." Torres paused in his work. The synthesis were beings of pure thought, imprisoned for 3,000 years. What could they possibly want to discuss? He made his way to the chamber where the synthesis had been held. The room was now filled with swirling patterns of light that hurt to look at directly. When the patterns spoke, their voices came from everywhere at once. "Human Commander, we have watched your species through the Nexus's sensors for 57 years. We have seen your growth, your alliances, your refusal to accept limits. Can you help us?" Torres asked. "The Council fleet will be here soon, and we still have hundreds of species to free." "We can do more than help," the synthesis replied. "We can teach you the truth about this prison. The Nexus was not just built to hold dangerous species. It was built to hide something else, something the Council fears more than any escaped prisoner." The swirling patterns shifted, showing images in the air. Torres saw the galaxy as it had been 10,000 years ago. Vibrant, growing, filled with species working together to explore the unknown. The predecessors did not just create the Council, the synthesis explained. They created a network, a way for all species to share knowledge instantly across any distance. A way to make war impossible because all beings would understand each other perfectly. Torres felt his heart racing. What happened to it? The Council destroyed most of it, but the core remains, hidden in the deepest part of the Nexus. If it were reactivated, every species in the galaxy would know the truth about the Council, Torres finished. Not just what they claim to be, but what they really are. Yes, but reactivating it will require sacrifice. The network needs a living consciousness to guide it. A species willing to merge with it and become its voice across the stars. Torres thought about the choice. Save a few hundred species from prison, or give the entire galaxy the truth. But doing so would mean someone would have to give up their physical existence to power the network. "What species could do this?" he asked. "Any species brave enough to choose truth over safety," the synthesis replied. "But it must be done before the Nexus destroys itself, and before the Council fleet arrives." Meanwhile, the first Council ships had reached the edge of the Nexus's influence. Captain Webb's reconnaissance ship detected massive energy buildups as both fleets prepared for battle. The Council formation was perfect, disciplined, overwhelming. The Tempest Coalition ships moved like a pack of wild animals, each species using different tactics and technologies. Admiral Johnson's flagship, the New Horizon, led the Coalition fleet toward impossible odds. On the bridge, Communications Officer Blake reported incoming messages from across the galaxy. "Admiral, we are receiving transmissions from Council space. Some of them are unexpected." "Put them through," Johnson ordered. The first voice belonged to a young ethereal. "This is Navigation Officer Veltar of the Council ship Windcatcher. We received the transmission about the prison. Is it true? Has the Council been lying to us?" More voices followed. Dendron colony ships asking questions. Vextai research vessels reporting strange discoveries in their own archives. Even some Council military units requesting clarification about their orders. The truth was spreading faster than the Council could contain it, just as the synthesis had predicted. "All Coalition ships," Admiral Johnson broadcast. "We are not just fighting for the freedom of imprisoned species, we are fighting for the truth. For the right of every species to know what their government really does in their name." The two fleets met at the edge of the Nexus's gravitational field. The first shots fired were not from weapons, but from broadcasting arrays. Both sides flooded space with competing versions of reality. The Council claimed they were stopping dangerous criminals. The Coalition showed evidence of the prison and its innocent inmates. As the battle began, neither side knew that deep inside the Nexus, Commander Torres was making a choice that would change everything. The predecessor's chamber had finally opened, revealing beings who looked almost human, but whose eyes held the wisdom of ages. "You seek to reactivate the Truth Network," their leader said to Torres. "We can help you. But are humans prepared to be the voice of truth for the entire galaxy?" Torres thought about Earth's children playing in impossible gravity, about species working together as equals rather than as rulers and subjects, about the choice between comfortable lies and difficult truths. "Yes," he said, "we are ready." The battle for the galaxy's future had begun. The Battle of Meridian Passage began with silence. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of her flagship Tempest, watching the Council fleet spread across the stars like a wall of metal and death. Two fleets faced each other across the void, but neither fired the first shot. Instead, they fought with truth. "Broadcasting on all frequencies," reported Communications Officer Martinez. "Every piece of evidence from the Nexus is going out to every world in Council space." On the main screen, Sarah could see the Council formation wavering. Some ships had stopped moving forward. Others were breaking formation to receive private communications from their home worlds. Chancellor Zeftar's voice came across the emergency channel, crackling with rage. "Admiral Chen, you are broadcasting lies and propaganda. Surrender now, and we will make your deaths quick." Sarah activated her own transmitter, sending her voice to both fleets and every inhabited world within range. "Chancellor, the only lies here are the ones you have told the galaxy for 10,000 years. We have freed your prisoners. We have the evidence. Everyone can see the truth now." Behind the Council's front line, Sarah could see smaller ships breaking away from the main fleet. Reconnaissance vessels, science ships, even some military escorts were turning around and heading back to Council space. Their crews had families. They had questions that needed answers. But the Council's core fleet remained: the fanatics, the true believers, the species who had gained too much power under the old system to ever let it go. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Torres from the sensor station. "The Council fleet is charging their extinction weapons. Energy signatures match the planet killers they used on the Kethran rebellion." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. She had read about the Kethran system. 3 worlds with billions of people, wiped out because they had asked for representation in the Council. The official record said it was a plague. Now she knew better. "All Coalition ships," she broadcast. "The Council is preparing to use weapons of mass destruction. They would rather destroy us all than let the truth spread." The response came from across her fleet. Captain Santos of the Kythera bioships sounded grim but determined. "My people remember when the Council called us unworthy of evolution. We stand with humanity." Commander Vega of the Iron Collective's response was electronic and emotionless. "The Collective chooses truth over tyranny. We will not yield." One by one, the freed species from the Nexus added their voices. The Shapers, who could bend reality itself. The Flux beings, who existed in multiple dimensions. The Synthesis, whose thoughts could reach across the galaxy in seconds. And at the center of it all, the predecessors. The ancient species who had built the Council as servants, only to become their prisoners. "Council fleet," came a new voice on the communication channels. It sounded human, but older and deeper than any human voice should be. "This is Predecessor Prime, speaking for the civilization you thought you had erased." We demand you stand down immediately. Sarah looked at her tactical display and gasped. The Nexus itself was moving. The massive prison structure had become a ship, its ancient drives awakening after millennia of sleep. More than that, it was broadcasting something that made space itself shimmer. "What is that?" Lieutenant Torres asked, staring at his instruments in confusion. Dr. Okafor's voice came over the comm from the science station. "It is the Truth Network. Commander David Torres is activating it from inside the Nexus. Sarah, he is broadcasting the real history of the galaxy to every inhabited world simultaneously." Sarah understood immediately. This was not just about freeing prisoners anymore. This was about giving every species in the galaxy the choice between comfortable lies and dangerous freedom. The effect was immediate and devastating. Across the Council fleet, ships began to slow down. On the bridge of the Vextai battleship Crystal Song, Captain Velmar stared at the data streaming across her displays. 10,000 years of hidden history. Species destroyed for asking questions. Technologies suppressed to maintain control. Her own people's true origins hidden beneath layers of Council propaganda. "This cannot be real," she whispered to her crew. But deep down, she knew it was. Too many pieces fit together. Too many mysteries suddenly made sense. On the ethereal carrier Wind Dancer, Navigation Officer Stelvor watched his people's real history unfold. They had not chosen isolation. They had been forced into it. Their sacred meditation chambers were actually Council-designed prisons that kept them from developing their natural telepathic abilities. Ship by ship, the Council fleet began to fall apart. But Chancellor Zeftar was not finished. His flagship, the massive battleship Order of Light, moved forward alone. Its extinction weapons were fully charged, ready to destroy not just the Coalition fleet, but the Nexus itself. "If we cannot rule the galaxy," Zeftar broadcast, "then no one will have it." Sarah realized with horror what the Chancellor intended. The Order of Light was heading directly for the Nexus. If those weapons fired at point-blank range, they would create a chain reaction that would destroy everything within 50 light years. "All ships, intercept the Order of Light," Sarah commanded. "We cannot let them reach the Nexus." The Coalition fleet moved as one, but the Council battleship was too fast and too heavily armed. It smashed through their formation, leaving burning ships in its wake. Then something impossible happened. The Shapers, freed after millennia of imprisonment, reached out with their reality-bending powers. Space itself bent around the Order of Light, slowing its forward motion. The Flux beings poured their multidimensional energies into the ship's hull, causing its weapons to malfunction. The Synthesis attacked its computer systems with pure thought, turning its own defenses against it. But it was not enough. The Chancellor's fanaticism gave him strength. He overrode his ship's safety systems and pushed forward anyway. That was when humanity did what it always did, something the galaxy had never seen before. David Torres, still inside the Nexus, made contact with the Truth Network's core. "Sarah," he called over the comm, "I can stop him, but I need you to trust me." "David, what are you planning?" "The predecessors built this network to connect all minds across the galaxy. If I merge with it completely, I can show everyone, including Zeftar, what they really are. Not just facts or data, but true understanding." Sarah felt her heart breaking. "David, that will kill you." "No," came a voice that was David but also something more. "It will make me part of something bigger." "Sarah, give the order." Sarah looked at the tactical display. The Order of Light was seconds away from firing range. Millions of lives hung in the balance. The truth about the galaxy's real history was spreading, but it might all be destroyed in the next few minutes. "Do it, David," she said quietly. The change was instant and galaxy-wide. Every intelligent being in known space suddenly experienced a moment of perfect clarity. They felt what it was like to be a prisoner in the Nexus, watching friends die while tyrants claim to act in their name. They experienced the joy of species working together as equals. They felt the pain of civilizations destroyed for asking the wrong questions. On the bridge of the Order of Light, Chancellor Zeftar experienced 57 years of human determination. He felt the choice Sarah Chen had made to leave rather than submit. He experienced the hope of exiled species finding new homes among the stars. He felt the courage of beings who chose freedom over safety. For one perfect moment, Zeftar understood what the galaxy could be instead of what it was. His hand moved away from the weapons controls. "Stand down," he said quietly to his crew. "All ships, stand down." The Battle of Meridian Passage ended not with explosions or surrender, but with understanding. 6 months later, Ambassador Elena Rodriguez stood in the same hall where Sarah Chen had once faced the Council alone. But this hall was different now. Instead of floating seats arranged in a hierarchy, there were simple tables where representatives sat as equals. The old council was gone. In its place was the Galactic Forum, where decisions were made by consensus rather than decree. Species that had been imprisoned for millennia worked alongside their former captors to build something new. "The motion to establish the Deep Space Research Initiative passes," Elena announced to the Assembly. 17 species have volunteered to explore the far reaches of the galaxy, sharing all discoveries with the Forum. After the session ended, Elena walked to the memorial wall where new names were added each day. Species rediscovered, civilizations rebuilt, lives restored. At the center of the wall was a single human name, David Torres, who had chosen to become the voice of truth for the entire galaxy. His consciousness still lived in the network, helping coordinate communication between billions of beings across thousands of worlds. Sometimes, late at night, Elena could hear him in the data streams, still human, still asking uncomfortable questions, still refusing to accept that "this is how things have always been" was ever good enough. Earth was no longer alone among the stars. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. Instead, they had done something far more important. They had set it free. And in space stations orbiting 1,000 different suns, human children played with alien friends, growing up in a galaxy where the only limits were the ones they chose to accept. The Tempest had passed, but the changes it brought would last forever.